2015. We're very happy to have Ireland here with us today. I'll spend the day with you, and I'm very glad and looking forward to it.
Yes, grazie mille. I'm so pleased. My wife's been
Mrs. Higgins,
head minister for food. Yes.
Ivan Scalfarotti, nice to meet you.
Mr. President, good morning, Mr. President, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Forma spettacolare.
Benvenuti alla Giornata Nazionale dell'Irlanda a Expo Milano 2015. Siete pregati di alzarvi per l'esecuzione dell'inno nazionale d'Italia e dell'Irlanda. Welcome to the National Day of Ireland at Expo Milano 2015. Please rise for the playing of the national anthem of Italy and Ireland. Bienvenue à la Journée nationale de l'Irlande à Expo Milano 2015. Veuillez vous lever pour l'exécution de l'hymne national d'Italie et de l'Irlande. Potete prendere posto. You may now take your seats. Veuillez prendre place. Il sottosegretario di Stato per le riforme costituzionali e i rapporti con il Parlamento, Ivan Scalfarotto. The Undersecretary of State for Constitutional Reforms and Relations with Parliament, Ivan Scalfarotto. Monsieur le sous-secrétaire d'État pour les réformes constitutionnelles et les relations avec le Parlement, Ivan Scalfarotto.
Mr. President, signor Presidente, Eccellenze, autorità tutte, signore e signori, è un onore per me darvi, a nome del governo italiano, il benvenuto ad Expo Milano 2015. Vi accogliamo a Milano, cari amici irlandesi, in una splendida cornice, nata dalla creatività di architetti e artisti provenienti da ogni parte del mondo. Questa esposizione universale non vuole però essere soltanto un luogo di bellezza e un momento di svago per le moltitudini di persone che arrivano da tutto il mondo per godere dell'esperienza formidabile che rappresenta. Expo Milano 2015 costituisce in primo luogo l'opportunità unica nel suo genere per affrontare questioni fondamentali, quali la sicurezza alimentare, lo sviluppo sostenibile, arricchendo il dibattito internazionale attraverso soluzioni innovative provenienti da partner pubblici e privati. Expo Milano 2015 rimarrà inoltre l'unica esposizione universale sul continente europeo per i prossimi anni. Sono convinto che quello iniziato si appresti ad essere non solo un avvenimento vetrina per un grandissimo numero di paesi, in rappresentanza della quasi totalità della popolazione del globo, bensì anche un grande evento politico e istituzionale di un semestre anche a forte valenza europea. E mi lasci dire, signor Presidente, lo dico proprio in un momento nel quale la voce dell'Europa sulle questioni dell'umanità, del futuro dell'umanità, bisogna che sia sentita forte e chiara. È un momento nel quale l'Europa deve essere più Europa, proprio questo. Noi ci attendiamo milioni di visitatori qui a Milano, provenienti da tutta Europa e da tutto il pianeta, e l'evento godrà di una copertura mediatica globale per l'intera durata. In questo senso Expo offre un'occasione straordinaria per risvegliare la consapevolezza nell'opinione pubblica mondiale sui temi della sostenibilità dello sviluppo rurale, della lotta contro lo spreco alimentare, dell'agricoltura familiare, del gender empowerment e di rendere evidente il collegamento tra piccole scelte individuali e i grandi processi globali. Lo testimonia la Carta di Milano, un documento partecipato e condiviso che richiama ogni cittadino, associazione, impresa o istituzione pubblica a lavorare per garantire alle generazioni future di poter godere del diritto al cibo, partendo da sé, come è doveroso per ogni vero cambiamento che si voglia vedere implementato. Come ebbe a dire il Mahatma Gandhi, siate il cambiamento che volete vedere nel mondo. Tutti coloro che sottoscrivono la Carta di Milano si assumono dunque una responsabilità precisa rispetto alle proprie abitudini e chiedono ai governi e alle istituzioni di adottare regole e politiche a livello nazionale e globale per garantire al pianeta un futuro più equo e sostenibile. Per essere adeguatamente approfondito in tutte le sue sfumature, il carattere universale del tema dell'esposizione di Milano, nutrire il pianeta, energia per la vita, non ha richiesto solo l'adesione dei partecipanti, ma anche il loro contributo propositivo. Expo Milano sta offrendo un contenitore di altissima qualità, ma il contenuto sarà necessariamente il frutto di un lavoro di squadra, di governi, organizzazioni internazionali, imprese e privati cittadini. L'Irlanda, signor Presidente, è certamente da annoverare tra i protagonisti di Expo Milano 2015. Il mondo ha ammirato nelle scorse settimane la vostra capacità di leadership nell'innovazione sociale e sappiamo che l'Irlanda può avere un ruolo di assoluta avanguardia anche per l'apporto in termini di idee e di best practices nel campo della sicurezza alimentare e dello sviluppo sostenibile. Dei tanti contributi vorrei citarne uno dei più significativi, il programma Origin Green, il programma nazionale irlandese per lo sviluppo della sostenibilità, destinato ad agricoltori e produttori di generi alimentari e bevande, per garantire, grazie anche a verifiche esterne, una filiera produttiva interamente sostenibile. L'Irlanda è all'avanguardia nell'impegno ad esportare alimenti che siano sostenibili al 100% e controllati da parti terze. favorendo così anche una nuova maniera di guardare al commercio. Il messaggio della partecipazione irlandese a Milano Expo 2015, che vorrei facessimo nostro in questa giornata, parte dalla considerazione che lo sviluppo non può prescindere dalla considerazione che la terra non è un dono che abbiamo avuto dalle precedenti generazioni, ma invece qualcosa che abbiamo preso in prestito dalle generazioni future. Per questo dobbiamo prendere l'impegno di restituirla più ricca, non più povera, di promuoverla, non di sfruttarla. E dunque la vostra partecipazione nel segno del tema Lavorando con la natura include quindi sia il lato educativo divulgativo, sia i risvolti economici che indubbiamente l'esposizione genera. Moltissime imprese hanno già visto l'opportunità di crescita in Expo, basti pensare al settore agroindustriale e al turismo. La manifestazione rappresenta una piattaforma per gli incontri delle aziende più dinamiche, ricordando che Expo non è stata pensata per mostrare prodotti innovativi, bensì idee e progetti innovativi. L'approccio di Expo vuole dunque essere inclusivo, in grado di offrire tutti gli strumenti necessari per assicurare i messaggi chiave sulla sicurezza alimentare e sullo sviluppo sostenibile. Concludo, signor Presidente. Il percorso che abbiamo intrapreso vuole andare oltre questi 6 mesi di esposizione universale, anche nell'ottica dell'agenda di sviluppo post-2015 delle Nazioni Unite, che sostituirà i Millennium Development Goals. Quella strada verso la sostenibilità è una strada lunga, lunga come la vostra Wild Atlantic Way, che per 2500 km segna il territorio irlandese. Quindi il vostro contributo è davvero determinante, passando anche da questa esposizione. Grazie ancora una volta, signor Presidente, per averci onorato con la sua presenza e buona giornata dell'Irlanda a tutti.
Il Presidente dell'Irlanda, Michael D Higgins. The President of Ireland, Michael D Higgins. Monsieur le Président d'Irlande, Michael D Higgins.
If I may begin in our own language for just a moment, is privileged ven sha maroctron herin, a glocu part in Milano Expo, gavilis a cuiterg, is gwimrag a spanach ta gocht and a chokig, gudi and niwan and lasha a carni shevi. I am absolutely delighted to be here with you in Milan to celebrate Ireland's National Day at Expo 2015. I want to say how impressed I was by the philosophy that we have just heard from the Secretary of State, and I want to pay tribute to all those who have organized this wonderful exhibition, running as it will for 6 months, and to which so many people will come. It is apt that this National Day that has been chosen for Ireland takes place on Bloomsday, a day which is so significant in the Irish literary calendar, and a day which has forged a unique connection between Ireland and Italy, because it was here in this beautiful country 100 years ago that James Joyce began to write his literary masterpiece, Ulysses, when he was living in Trieste and Rome. And of course, we should not forget that that book of Joyce's is one that broke a mold when it was necessary to move to a new place in literature, reminding us that we must too be able to move to new paradigms of thought to deal with the problems that face us as a humanity. The birth of Ulysses, you know, was one of the greatest happenings and innovations in world literature. And it is as well a great historical reminder of the strong cultural affinities as well as the deep tradition of friendship that exists between the Irish and the Italian people, and which I'm delighted to say continues to grow and progress between us in an increasingly global world. More and more as we face global issues, those of us who depart in our thinking from a strong cultural base find ourselves having more and more in common in our discourse. That exchange of ideas and knowledge between our peoples, which has continued. It constitutes a fundamental element of our friendship over the centuries, and it continues today and is reflected in Ireland's participation at Milan Expo. It was Aristotle who said that the ethics of friendship make a greater demand than the ethics of justice, the latter being measurable, the former being immeasurable. And the friendship that exists between our peoples is a great source of encouragement, and it stems from a deep and shared rich cultural relationship into modern times. And on those foundations, Ireland and Italy have built a dynamic and mutually beneficial economic and trading relationship. May I pay tribute, as Secretary of State, to the Expo organisers, to the Italian government, and to everyone who has made this wonderful exhibition, in which 140 countries will participate, possible. And you are correct in suggesting that the theme couldn't be more important, the overall theme of Expo. Feeding the planet, energy for life, could not be more relevant to the challenges facing the world today. A fragile planet which we share. Global hunger in the 21st century represents the grossest of human rights violations and the greatest ethical challenge facing the global community. I must say as well, it represents one of the great failures of humanity. How much have we served? What goals have we sought to achieve? And in this, to so many places of the world, we have failed. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization, located in Rome, while the world of the present time produces enough food to potentially feed its entire population, more than 1 billion people are undernourished, over 2 billion suffer from nutritional deficiencies, and almost 6 million children die every year for malnutrition or related diseases. The conferences we will hold this year, the purpose of events such as Expo 2015, are to pose the challenge to us. Are they not all the children of a shared planet? Or are they different children condemned to different circumstances? Those issues I have mentioned constitute a tragedy, whose root cause lies not in lack of food, but in gross inequalities which exist across the world, and which are deepening and spreading in many parts of the world, threatening social cohesion itself. It is a moral outrage requiring a moral response that will inform and challenge political decision makers and institutions, and all citizens in reality. It requires a response focused on sustainable solutions that will empower those who are currently living in extreme deprivation, and who in present circumstances and current arrangements seem condemned to lives of relentless hardship and hopeless suffering. And now, in more recent times, in an atmosphere of conflict. If we need a social floor in the European Union as an a priori basis for discussion on economic adjustments, then I suggest we need also a floor of socioeconomic and cultural rights as a universal basis for goals if we are to achieve them in a way that we want to be universal. Not offered to somebody else for their compliance, but making challenges and demands on us all in a universal sense. And 2015 is a crucial year. In this year, nations across the world will conclude negotiations on both the United Nations post-2015 development agenda and on the climate change agenda. Two critical and interrelated processes, crucially connected together, which will require world leaders to be courageous, astute, practical in the decisions that they make. It is a period which requires vigilance and activism across all sectors of society, including the NGO sector, parliamentarians, public intellectuals, academics, and beyond, so as to ensure that national policies, while pluralist, are sourced in global welfare, and that mechanisms are put in place which will ensure that policymakers are able to bring their policies into fruition. And it will require pluralist thinking. It will require new models. It will require the courage to get to a new place of sufficiency and sustainability. And while the scale of the challenge is great, recent figures from the Food and Agriculture Organization again do give us courage. And they give hope that concerted international action has indeed the capacity to address the issue of hunger. Approximately 55% of those countries monitored for progress, as measured by the Millennium Development Goals, which come to an end in 2015, have achieved the targets in relation to hunger. And 22% have halved the number of undernourished people in their population. This is welcome. And the figures might hide other factors, such as, for example, the achievement in China is a huge part of the achievement. But such partial achievement is simply insufficient. Progress has been uneven across countries, regions, and sub-regions. North Africa, affected by conflict and instability, in particular, is demonstrating a low level of advancement towards the Millennium Goals. Then too, while disasters, such as the Ebola outbreak in West Africa last year, presented serious threats to hard-earned gains that had been made. So although we survey a somewhat improved landscape, it is certain that global hunger and food poverty continue to be critical challenges. Critical challenges which must remain at the top of the political agendas across the world. And we must be ambitious. For example, we must aim higher than addressing extreme poverty when we have the capacity to eliminate poverty and to scale up nutrition for all those who need it. We have much to learn from both what has been achieved to date and also from our reviewing of the obstacles that remain in the battle against hunger, as we work to develop policies that will encourage inclusive growth and respond to the challenges of poverty, climate change, and land ownership structures. And I sometimes say, having spent a lifetime in public life, that the scholarship that stands behind the policies that are on offer must make one fundamental commitment, and that is that policies supported by theories and strategies must seek to adjust the economic structures of the world to the needs of the people of the world, rather than condemning the peoples of the world to the extreme demands of economic models. Ireland knows about this. Ireland has an innate understanding of what I have just said, given our own history of famine, when 1 million Irish people died of starvation and 1 million immigrated during An Garta Mór, or the Great Hunger in the 1840s. And I think it is that memory that makes food security such an important core element in our development aid programme. Of the overseas development aid budget managed by Irish Aid, 20% is directed towards hunger reduction. And Ireland, of course, is a founding supporter of scaling up nutrition, or Sun movement, which focuses on maternal, infant and child nutrition. Ireland also supports the Action Plan on Nutrition of the European Commission, which focuses on undernutrition and sets out the priorities of the Commission's contribution to the World Health Assembly target of reducing global stunting by 40% by 2025. And as I say that, remember that the goals that will replace the World Millennium Development Goals, if they are to be universal, mean that they are directed at those who are deprived within our developed countries as much as the countries to which have yet to achieve development. And as the world continues to face the great ethical challenge that is global hunger, I call it the great moral outrage that is world hunger, the great failure in international diplomacy that is world hunger, Ireland is co-facilitator along with Kenya of the final negotiations on the post-2015 Sustainable Development Agenda, has a critical role to play. Our joint task with the government of Kenya is to bring the intergovernmental negotiations to a successful outcome, and thus to support the delivery of a transformative agenda that will shape a world that is sustainable and just and fair in its acknowledgement of universal rights and the fundamental allowance of the capacity to flourish of all the people of this planet. I think this is so important, and these negotiations must not founder on the rock of text. They must deliver real commitments supported by the peoples of the world. And it is an honour for Ireland to have the opportunity to contribute to the progression of a global agenda of eradicating poverty. The great, if uneven, progress achieved under the first Millennium Development Goal of halving poverty and hunger should encourage our ambition in the period ahead. Our shared goal is to end poverty and hunger within a generation. It is a compelling challenge. Equally, to achieve gender equality with a generation, to end gender violence in a generation. It offers the future of a legacy of which all of us, as shared inhabitants of this fragile planet, could be proud. And it is urgent. It is urgent because it offers a future. I think we are the first generation that has the capacity to eliminate hunger within such a time scale and poverty. And then I say, perhaps we may be the last generation that can address climate change in a way that avoids catastrophic results. And thus we face the challenge of intergenerational justice in relation to combining issues of hunger, economy, ecology, ethics and morality and cultural diversity. And it is essential that in addressing these global challenges of food security and climate change so interlinked, that we are consistent in that we practice at home what we advocate overseas, that we meet the same demand of values, universal values, and also that we share in good faith and technology with those who need them most. We must be willing to transfer technology and capacity to those upon whom we make a demand. It is important we transfer capacity as well as injunctions to be responsible. Then too, I think we cannot, within the European Union, demand an existence for others below a floor of socio-economic and cultural rights as the price of compliance with a version of contraction in economics or indeed of austerity. Isn't it fitting then, and I'm accompanied here today by the Minister for Food, Minister Tom Hayes, that both BIA, the Irish Food Board, has played a central role in the design and content of the Irish Pavilion at Expo 2015. And it is indicative, and I thank you, Secretary, for mentioning it, that its flagship sustainable agricultural policy, Origin Green, has been chosen as the Irish Pavilion's theme. Ireland is striving to become a world leader in carbon-efficient agriculture and food production, and this year became a signatory to the Global Alliance for Climate-Smart Agriculture. This alliance brings together key players to work together in ensuring that agricultural practices, food systems and social policies will take account of climate change and the efficient use of natural resources. Origin Green is a voluntary sustainability programme for Irish food and drink products, which gives proof to their commitment to operating in a sustainable way. A global innovation of total traceability, working as it does across the entire supply chain, from farm to manufacturing. Origin Green is the only sustainability programme in the world which operates on a national scale. Origin Green will be a valuable contributor to the debate on ethical and sustainable solutions to the challenges the world faces. And while it may not be possible to replicate it in every country, it demonstrates the innovative thinking that is so critical in addressing and meeting the challenges of food poverty and the sustainability challenges in food production. And that is so important, as the Secretary of State has just said. Using Expo 2015 to innovate, be creative, and bring new models into existence. I very much am looking forward today to the opportunity of seeing how the 140 countries present are bringing their own experiences, expertise, and innovation and creativity in their response to the challenging theme that Expo 2015 has shown them. I know that each country will have their own perspectives, informed by their economic and political development and existing access to a secure food supply. And I so respect that pluralism of circumstance. But by the end of 2015, we must all achieve an agreement that is universal in the sense of application, practice, commitment, and for all our citizens, changed consciousness. I would like to thank Tourism Ireland for their contribution to developing the Irish presence at Expo. It is a source of pride that so many people from all over the world choose to visit our green island. Last year, 250,000 people from Italy, and you are so welcome. I'm delighted that Italians are particularly enthusiastic visitors to our shores, and the 25,000 young students who come to learn English, that is already increased by about 50% this year. As I think that there is an enormous set of possibilities, as we would say in Irish, Féidir di Ganchorin is Féidir Lena Haru. We have so many things we can do together. A particular similarity between Ireland and Italy is, of course, the beauty of our coastlines and our response to nature. The west coast of Ireland, where I lived, looking out to the Atlantic Ocean, has 2,500 kilometres of the most captivating coastal drive in the world, stretching from the Inishowen Peninsula in the north to Kinsale in County Cork in the south. This wild Atlantic way, which is featured as well at the Irish Pavilion, takes travellers through some of the most dramatic scenery on the edge of Europe and introduces them to the location of literature in the Irish language and English and the history of Ireland. The sheer slate walls of the interior of the Irish Pavilion echo the stone cliffs for which Ireland is famous. But I hope that the immersion of all of this, the experience of this exhibition, will convey to the visitors of Expo the great natural beauty of our coastline and to encourage ever more of them to visit Ireland in the future, where they will be so welcome. Mar focal square Cun Creek, finally. May I commend the large number of people who have worked tirelessly and creatively and under pressure at times to construct and develop the Irish Pavilion. May I thank John Kennedy, Ireland's Pavilion Commissioner, and all of his team, including their Italian partners. The Office of Public Works in Ireland, the Irish Embassy in Rome, for whom I thank the arrangements for my own visit in particular, Bode Bia, the Irish Food Board, and Tourism in Ireland. And may I thank our Italian hosts and all those who have contributed to the Irish present at Expo. I very, very much am grateful to you for giving such real meaning to the word hospitality. And I look forward to seeing the Irish Pavilion and visiting as many of the other nations as my limited time will allow. Berbanacht, Goramila Mahaki. Thank you. Grazie.
Siamo giunti alla fine della cerimonia ufficiale della Giornata Nazionale dell'Irlanda a Expo Milano 2015. Grazie a tutti i partecipanti. Il programma continua con uno spettacolo di musiche e danze irlandesi. We have come to the end of the official ceremony of the National Day of Ireland at Expo Milano 2015. Thanks to all participants. The program continues with a performance of Irish music and dance. Nous voilà à la fin de la cérémonie officielle de la Journée nationale de l'Irlande à Expo Milano 2015. Merci à tous les participants. Le programme continue avec un spectacle de musique et danse irlandaise.
Solium fenig buonan leud Dochol gwel vox na cietach lad Maharatad na merig Ahadian of Gemdin Saranach enilo paik nashla Nir hanigor major Edos an lechuing Snýramar feinán gorna gart ach mar sjål fi träda der fågan hävna grene det kljavna man Skärrasende vrøg doch lyga dåsjen mar fagag mor din skintelag län yoga nå smålan dåte san medgan bjodiv kostlin og skart ach ganem sjebendiv antegen an faula gamme gorlo le pikes le sla skoggeram man krenam roga dialan chorlo liavna man
Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all the flowers are dying. Adieu, 'tis you must go and I must bide. But come you back when summer's in the meadow, or when the
Mo Waltham Sheer Hundra de Fora Peakem Gods Medal Hill Ke Caspira Medgamar Kjog Up Pagan Cronus say Willa Alleluia Williloo Alleluia and Poker Willa Alleluia Williloo Alleluia Than Poker Into Cooley we came by road, so we didn't we passed a Fordson 5-ton lorry, a tractor and a baby Ford and branch bulldozer from East Kerry. Alleluia, Williloo, Alleluia, and Poker Willa, Alleluia, Williloo, Alleluia, Van Poker Willa. In Angani Hush, le Hayan Tranona, Vian Sagat Prosh, Demach Nar Unkinib, Shedward Garbayan Dial Bagolish, Hagav and Thrower Pokan Willa, Alleluia, Williloo, Alleluia, and Poker Willa, Alleluia, Williloo, Alleluia, Tan Poker. was down the glen one Easter morn, to a city fair roved I. Their armed lines of marching men in squadrons passed me by. No pipe did hum, no battle drum did sound its loud tattoo, but the Angelus bell o'er the Liffey swell rang out through the foggy dew. Right proudly high over Dublin town they flung out the flag of war, for 'twas better to die 'neath an Irish sky than in Suvla or Suddlebar. And from the plains of Royal Mead strong men came hurrying through, while Britannia's sons with their great big guns sailed in through the foggy dew. But the bravest fell, and the requiem bell rang mournfully and clear, for those who died that Easter tide in the springtime of the year. And the world did gaze with deep amaze at those fearless men but few, who fought the fight that freedom's light might shine through the foggy dew. Shedaba Hawalya, Oro Shedaba Hawalya, Oro Shedaba Hawalya. And it's a hot and towering, the grand awailing, tucker sila, ugly guard, maglig, or garda, yawling fang is rigged on spawning. It's good a kid rowing on howling, Oro Shedaba Hawalya, Oro Shedaba Hawalya, Oro Shedaba Hawalya. And it's your hot and towering, a wheel of dien have art go veckum, monument beyond the hieg of shachten, grania whale agus mile gaskiach, ik fogert von gaulen. Oro shedaba hawalya, oro shedaba hawalya, oro shedaba hawalya. And it's your hot and
Congratulations.
Hi, how are you? Thank you.
Cosa fa? Torna qua. Dai.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure we could see everybody.